Greetings, everybody, and welcome to the Metal Magdalene with Jet Radio Show. Today we have a special guest with us here on the program. We have Mr. Kam Lee, who many of us know from his vocals in Massacre and way back in Mantis. Welcome to the show, Kam.
Hi! What's up, everybody?
Scared the crap out of me.
Sorry about that. Everyone always expects me to do the Kam Lee wipeout. I don't know why. I always get people say, hey, man, can you do it? So I figured I'd start it off with one. That way they're like, okay, it's Kam Lee. I got it.
It's really him.
Yep.
So, Kam, you have a few new bands and projects that we're going to introduce to the audience, but before we do that, now you've been in this business since the birth of death metal, so like me, you've seen it grow and break into all these subgenres. So what are your thoughts, both good and bad, on the evolution of death metal? Only a 2-hour show.
Okay. Wow. I'll start with the good. The good thing is, I guess let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to 83, 84, 85, that era, and talk about how I think when I was doing it along with Rick and Chuck, and we were getting into it, and it happened so fast too. We're kids in high school. We meet each other, and it's all about the tape trading, and metal was so, especially the underground, was so open to new stuff. I mean, bands were coming out left and right. Every week we were tape trading with somebody in New York or somebody in California, and we were getting introduced to so much stuff. And then you got to remember too, this death metal really wasn't, it wasn't a genre then. Mm-hmm. It was mentioned lightly, in like Hellhammer had mentioned being death metal. Possessed had the song death metal. We of course had Death by Metal, and it was literally called speed death or speed thrash. I remember Destruction, Sentence of Death album, and seeing the words speed death, and I was like, that's kind of cool. That's actually kind of cool. And we weren't even sure what we were calling ourselves. Manus, of course, started off as a Venom tribute or a Venom clone band. Mm-hmm. I mean, of course, this is the name Manus. So to me, watching death metal go from its early roots, and this is back in 84. I was also tape trading with Killjoy and talking to Killjoy, and there was the whole, hey, let's talking back and forth, not emails, but shit, this is snail mail back then. We're snail mailing each other and like writing stuff about, this is cool horror movie stuff I've watched. And then you get on the phone with the guys over the weekend, you're sneaking on your parents' phone, to call Ohio and talk to Killjoy at 2 o'clock in the morning. Hey, man, I just watched the new, Lucio Fulci, The Beyond. Did you watch it? It's like all this stuff. So it began to create this thing where everybody was talking and throwing ideas back and forth and incorporating it into our music and being really enthralled with the horror genre of stuff that was coming, especially the 80s. The 80s was filled of horror. And it's just a perfect time to meld music and that horror genre of horror movies and just kind of meld it. It just seemed right to just fall into place. And of course, death metal was underground. So we were like the bastard child of metal. We were the ugly, redheaded stepchild of metal. Oh, God, that was the worst, because back then the big stuff was Dio and Rainbow and, Priest and stuff that, Queensryche, stuff that still had singers that were, holding notes and singing and all that kind of stuff. So, I remember when I got into it and we were doing it, and I decided to do vocals, especially after I left Death, because, of course, in Madison Death, Chuck and I were sort of still doing the more scratchy vocals, kind of like would become black metal vocals. And then I changed when I went to Massacre, and I said, I've got to do something different that's not the same. I don't want to sound like Jeff Becerra, and I don't want to sound like everybody else is doing this high-pitched screaming. Of course, I didn't want to sound like, King Diamond, which, believe it or not, and I don't want to get off base real quick, but I've never liked Merciful Fate and King Diamond. I know that's blasphemy when it comes to metal. I know it is. I try to like King Diamond. I really do. And as soon as he starts going into that shit, I can't do it. I just cannot do it. The whole reason I created the Death Growl is because I wanted to get away from that type of stuff. There were so many vocalists that were doing that high-pitched, kind of stuff. And I respect the guys that could do that. I really do respect it. But I always thought, we need to be the ugly bastard child. Let's just accept that. Let's accept us being ugly. So I went with the whole growl, and there was kind of aspects that changed that or influenced me to do that with so many things. Growling, for one, was a way to kind of do the opposite of what everybody else was doing at the time. Also, taking influences from horror movies. Again, I remember it was 1984, and Nightmare on Elm Street came out. And I remember going to the drive-in theater with Chuck and Rick to watch that. And we were like, that, Evil Dead, all those movies were coming out. And I remember watching those movies and going, there's demons. And we've got to sound like demons. And I remember Freddy Krueger being pitched. I remember his voice being pitched, like, I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy. And I was like, that needs to come out. Vocalist, I need to do that. I need to do that vocally. Because that's the personification that I want to display. Mm-hmm. So, going back to the question about how talking about death metal, I love the fact that it came from just these ideas of fans that were horror movie fans from in the beginning. You know, guys like me and Chuck and Rick and Killjoy and King Folly. You know, there was all those early guys that were really love horror movies. And if you talk to any of the old school death metal guys, you'll find there's a correlation between the music that we were listening to and horror movies. And that influenced a lot. And people are going to say to me, I remember when, I never had a problem with Deicide, and I love, like, the Hoffman brothers. I love those guys and still friends with them. And I remember when Glenn, the first Deicide, the Amon came out and Dead by Dawn came out, and I remember going, oh, this is cool. Glenn's a fucking Evil Dead fan. And I remember talking to him about it, and he was denying it. No, that's not where it comes from. I'm like, come on, it's Dead by Dawn. It's Evil Dead 2, man. Come on, you can't deny it. I understand you're being all evil and satanic and spooky, but come on. It's like, that's a little story from back then. But, I like the fact that early death metal guys were horror fans, and still are. There's still a lot of us out there that are horror movie fans, and we I guess, for me, if you would ask me, what am I first? Death metal vocalist, death metal musician, or horror movie fan? I'm actually a horror movie fan first. I think about this, and this is blasphemy too. What would I give up? Would I give up my horror movie collection first? I'll put it different. If my house was on fire, what would I say first? My metal CDs or my horror movie DVDs? And I have to say, it's probably the horror movie DVDs. I know that's bad, and there's metal guys going, what? But I'm a horror movie fan first, a death metal musician second. To me, I love the music, but there's just something about those certain movies that just put me in that mode, and put me in that mode of thinking that helped me create. And those certain movies that I'll always go back to that remind me of those good times. And there's other music too, but the movies are really, for me, the stepping off point. Today, what I've seen death metal, and I mean, this is not just today, this is what I've seen in the last 20 years. Death metal has sort of it's integrated. And like you said, there's so many subgenres now. And I've seen it go from what the old school style of death metal to more of remember when Suffocation and Cannibal came out, and there was more blast, and Morbid came out, and there was blast being incorporated into it, which was more of a grindcore drum beat being incorporated into it, to it becoming so technical when Niles and the band came out like this, to getting a little bit. Now, I'm not a fan of I call it math metal, death metal, where it's like, I'm not a fan of it only because I'm old school, and I have that old school, I guess, spirit, or whatever you want to call it, feel. So I like to be able to feel my music rather than it be something I have to think about. And I don't know, I like something that has a groove, that's something that I can catch, that catches me, that I can groove to, whether it's like nodding my head back and forth or tapping my foot to it or feeling it when it has a groove. And I'm not just talking about the drum beat or the guitar rhythm. I'm talking everything. When a vocalist has when he's in a niche and he's right there and he's saying something, whatever it is, and you're feeling it, and it almost feels natural, and it pops, and it gets right into this pocket that's just perfect. and sometimes you feel that D beat, and it doesn't have to be blast. Sometimes the heaviest stuff is that doo-dah D beat, and that vocalist is in the pocket, and the guitar is going, and the bass is going, and it's all synced, it's in sync. There's just something about it that it's like, yeah, I can fucking kill somebody to this music. And that's when it's death metal. That's when I'm feeling it. No matter what the vocalist is singing about. He could be singing about fucking Satan. He could be singing about smoking pot. As long as it has that in there, that beat, and it's in that pocket, and you feel it, like, bam, 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 that's it. That's what I'm feeling, and it's there. That's when it's good. And that's what I look for. But I don't know. There's so many subgenres now. It got to me when it really got ridiculous was when it was all this core stuff added to it. What the fuck? Deathcore, like grindcore I get, but then grindcore even got like all these little subgenres of porno grind and I don't know, puke grind and everything else. I mean, I even did a joke band for a joke called UFO grind because I was like, there's so many damn grind bands. Fuck. So I'll do a joke band. I wrote 2 songs that were grind, and I called it. I'm thinking, what the fuck can I do that's different? Okay, UFO grind. I'll make it about UFOs, aliens, and I thought about aliens. I'm like, what is the scary thing about aliens? Okay, to me, scary thing about aliens is what you used to hear about the alien anal probe. Oh God, the fucking alien anal probe. All right, so I called the band Alien Anal Probe. Automatically, right out of the bat, homophobia was like, guys are writing me, what are you talking about? I'm like, calm down, man. Don't be so homophobic, They're like, well, you're writing homoerotic. I'm like, it's not homoerotic. It's supposed to be funny. It's like fucking alien anal probe. I said, didn't you ever play the game Destroy All Humans? That was like one of the damn powers that you could do. You could anal probe somebody. So, but it's weird how it's got all these genres. Like you said, it's got all, everybody seems every week somebody's coming up with some new, thing to call their, and another thing too is like I've noticed in the past 5 years, all these new bands calling themselves old school death metal. It's like, wow. And what's really cool though is some of them are really fucking good, like really good. Like I'm like, wow, they know what they're doing. Then there's some that just use it. They're just using the tag to just kind of, capture an audience. Oh, if it's OSDM, it must be good. And it's like,
No, what about like social medias? Now with, the internet and these, music sharing sites, including YouTube, which is so easy to rip music off of nowadays too. So do you think that stuff like this, helps music or hinders or a little bit of both or what?
Okay, for the musician involved, and every musician out there is going to say this, and if you're not saying this, if you're one of those types that are trying to go against it, because I've had a couple on my Facebook page to go, what are you talking about, man? I give my stuff away for free all the time. I'm like, okay, I understand it. It's the cool underground sort of way to be. Yeah, you want to give your stuff away for free. But after you've been doing it for 35 fucking years and you still haven't got anything, it's kind of, I didn't like when Lars and Metallica and all that whole controversy came out and Lars was pitching a bitch about all illegal downloads and stuff. Of course, nobody wants anything to be ever stolen from them. As an artist, not only as a musician, it sucks when you do something, you create something, and someone feels entitled to actually just take that. So I feel social media hinders when it's being stolen. Now, what's actually happened, and which I guess is just in general in 2017, is there's a lack of respect for everything. It's not just musicians, it's just for everything. There's just lack of respect for everything. So it's kind of hard. It's not my position, it's not your position, it's no musician or actor or anybody's position to try and teach someone respect. That's not our position. If you don't fucking have respect, you're just a piece of shit. That's your parents' fault. So it's not our position to teach respect, but it is I don't want to say position, but it is our, it's just in us to expect respect. As artists, as musicians, as people in entertainment, you expect to be respected, and that comes with support. Regardless, I don't like it when somebody says, well, yeah, I support you. I downloaded shit off YouTube and I listened to it, so I support you. No, that's not support. Support is actually purchasing or buying from the musician himself. That helps show that you respect that person's art, that you took the time, they took the time out to create that art, and you appreciate that. So it's sort of a gratitude thing. Yeah, sure, labels rip us off. They're out there, they rip the fans off, they rip the musicians off. It's you know, it's tooth and nail pulling back and forth. It's kind of hard. It's hard when somebody that works a shitty, you know, $9 an hour job every week, gets paid every 2 weeks, got to pay an astronomical amount for rent, for food, and they want to, you know, be into the metal scene. They want to be able to buy the stuff, and they're looking, well, I can buy a CD or I can eat for the next week. It's kind of sucks. It sucks that happens. I don't like the overabundant prices that labels throw down. That's why, like, in the stuff that I try to do, I try to get an amount of CDs for myself and then sell them. And I've actually been yelled at by labels. Labels are like, why are you underselling us? I'm like, it's my shit, man. I can do what the fuck I want with it. You know? They get mad. They're like, why are you underselling us? You know, we're selling it for 15, you're selling it for 10. Okay, but it's my shit, right? I can sell it for whatever the fuck I want to. I've had labels actually get on me for about that shit. But, you know, I try to give to the fans as much as I can. You know, that's why I do the things, like the new things I'm doing is just, I try to do bundles and I try to throw freebies in there. I try to do whatever I can because I know it's hard because I'm a fan and I've been a fan and I've been in this for 35 years. I know it sucks. I know it's hard when you want to support somebody and there's so much cool shit out there and you're like, what can I get? What should I do? What should I buy? Oh, well, the new Paradise Lost is coming out, and new Suffocation just came out, and there's a new Cannibal Corpse coming out, and a new Morbid Angel. What the fuck do I buy? So I understand that it's hard to kind of pick and choose, but you have to pick and choose. And if there's those type of things out there where somebody throws it up on YouTube, I'm not going to preach and say don't download. I mean, if you're poor but you want to listen to the music, sure. I mean, but nowadays, I mean, with my phone, I can just put on YouTube when I'm at work.
Right.
You know, so I'm not really stealing it. I'm just listening to it because somebody else threw it up there. But it does help and it does hinder. It's kind of a double-edged sword, really. But I don't know really where I stand on. I know I stand on please don't steal from me. You know, I know I can say that. Please stop stealing my shit. Please buy some of my shit. But then I sound pathetic, like I'm begging, please buy my shit. You know, I don't want to sound like that, and I don't want to sound like Lars Ulrich bitching and complaining. Those motherfuckers are like the least people that complain.
I know.
I mean, they do, and it's like, I don't know. I'm also one of the guys that I'm old school, so I find it very hard to fucking go to a show where I got to pay $15.
Right.
I mean, that hurts me. It's like, shit, I got to pay $15 to go see this band, and it's like, that's cool if you're doing it for one band every month, but then when there's 5 or 6 great bands coming through, that's $15 every time. And it's like, oh man, that's my fucking lunch money. That's my sandwich money. That's my fucking dinner. That's part of rent. You know, and it gets to that point, and it sucks too. So it's like, you gotta find a balance. And I like I said, I won't tell people not to steal. Fucking steal if you got to, but you know, don't steal from me. I don't know. That's the best thing I can say. Steal from the fuckers that you know, look at the guys that don't, I don't know. I'm going to sound bad. If I do that, then people are going to say, hey, man, Kam Lee told you and me to steal from Cannibal Corpse because they make a lot of money. And Kam Lee said it was cool to steal. No, I did not say it was cool to steal from Cannibal Corpse. I'm not saying it's cool to steal from anybody. But at least if you're going to steal from the motherfuckers that don't need the money. Well, we all need money, so I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to say what we need, to where I stand. It's like I said, it's a two-edged sword. It helps and it hinders. It's where we're at. So I try to be somebody that melds with the times. I don't want to be that elitist prick that sits back and goes, it ain't like 1985. I remember 1985. We traded and we had respect and we never stole. I don't want to be that dick, you know, but I don't know.
All right, well, that's that. So, Cam, let's talk a little bit of what's currently going on with you. Now, you did a guest vocals in Ursina with David Ingram's band, and now you have also been announced as one of the members of Troikodon alongside of David, as well as the great Carl Willits of Bolt Thrower and Memoriam. Now, how did you meet David, and how did Troikodon all come about for you?
I met David in England, of course, years ago, and you know, and it's weird because I kind of got out of the scene for a while. You know, there was that time between after the Promise album, which is Kam Lee's Cold Lake. Okay, that I left the scene for a while. I think from '96, and I didn't come back until almost a decade later. And I lost touch with everybody because I was moving around. I was trying to go out and do stuff, but Facebook, or actually MySpace, I think, which started with MySpace, is when I started getting in touch with everybody again. Reaching out, getting in touch with everybody. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, wow, what are you doing? Hey, Dave Ingram no longer lives in England. He lives in Denmark, and he does a radio show. And it all kind of like fell into that. And I actually started listening to Metal Breakfast Radio before contacting Dave. I remember I was just like, this fucking show is fucking funny as fuck. I love this show. And I was a fan of Metal Breakfast Radio before, and believe it or not, I know people say, no way, that I'm actually shy. Believe it or not, and I've come out more. I'm not as shy as I used to be. I used to be very reserved, and I think that me being reserved also got mistaken for me being a dick. He's a dick. He doesn't talk to anybody. But I used to be very shy and not be outspoken as much. Now I've gotten over that, but I remember at the beginning, I was like, I don't know how to approach David. It's like I was actually more afraid to approach him, and then that just happened. I think it was Facebook. I got on Facebook and I found him on Facebook, and I just said, "Hey, what's up?" I started, and that's how I kind of got with everybody. I just started, "Hey, it's Kam Lee," and people were right back, "Hey, it's Kam Lee! Holy fuck!" And I was like, "Oh yeah, man, it's me. Holy shit! How you doing?" I'm like, yeah, it's really me. I had a lot of people say, it's not you. I'm like, yeah, it's really me. It's like, your hair's gone. I'm like, yeah, well, it happens. Shit happens. I got my hair cut off. All right, well, now it's growing back. But, yeah, I mean, it really was like that. It was like me becoming a fan of Metal Breakfast Radio and then contacting him and then talking about stuff. And I remember contacting him. The very first thing he says is like, we got to do a song together. I'm like, yeah, cool, man, let's do that. And it kind of started just developing. And of course, I think you can see this, and people that follow us, follow me, David Ingram, Roger Johansson, Johnny Patterson, Travis. We have a little net group.
Yes.
It's not like we set out to do it. It just happened. It was cool. It just kind of like, it flowered, it bloomed. It bloomed because, and I really have to say Roger is the seed. Roger Johansson is the key to it all. Roger got in touch with me back in 2007, maybe in the end of 2006, and started talking to me about doing some stuff together. And of course, that eventually became Bonar. And by 2008, we released Bonar, and it just grew. I started working with Roger. Roger started working with everybody else, and it just became sort of this little network of people going from the MySpace days, going through Roger, and just kind of like this whole, hey, I guess this way they call it the internet. A little net was being formed. A little web was being formed through all us underground musicians. And I do have to say that Roger is key to that. And it kind of like happened like that. And then we started talking to each other. I say, oh, well, you know David Ingram? I know David Ingram. Hey, well, let's talk about that. Oh, David knows Carl. Let's talk to Carl. And how Troikodon actually happened was after working with David on several different guest vocal stuff, I had done something with him, and then in return he had done something with my band A-Cathartic, which he did guest vocals on Destroyer, and then I had him do guest vocals on Bonar, which was a bunch of other guest vocalists. It just all started kind of like talking. We just became friends, just talk every day. And Facebook, hey, I saw you do that. Hey, would you like to do this? Cool, yeah, let's do that. I can do that. Okay, yeah. And that's how it happens. And a lot of people think, wow, how do you get guest vocals from these guys? it's not really, is it that, I don't know about the other guys. I can't speak for everybody else. I don't charge anybody. It's very easy to get guest vocals from Kam Lee. How do you do it? First, your band has to be really fucking good. It has to be something that I like. I'm not going to just do guest vocals for shit bands. I mean, if a band sucks, I don't want to go, okay, I'll do it. I've done some guest vocals, but it's real easy to approach me. All you got to do is have the kind of death metal that I like or music that I like, if it's something that's cool, and just ask me. It's as simple as that. I mean, it's literally, people think, oh shit, you got to pay him. No, you don't. I mean, I know that people are going, there's probably thousands of bands that go, I can get Kam Lee now. He said that. But like I said, you got to be somebody that I listen to and a band that I say, holy fuck, this is cool. I like this. And it's going to be something that I want to do. And that's literally, for me, like I said, I can't speak for the other guys. I don't know if they charge or what they do, how they do it. But for me, it's real simple to approach me. You just ask. Ask and have some cool shit. It's really, and can I get a copy when it comes out? That's literally all I ask for.
So what's going on with that band now? I mean, have you written some stuff with them? What's going on?
Yeah, actually, there's 12 songs written. They're completely done. Travis, the drummer, who's also in A-Cathartic with me, he's in with David in Echelon. I don't remember how to pronounce that. Yeah, he plays drums in that. He plays drums in Cropsy Maniac. He's been in bands in the past like Blood Freak and a lot of other bands. He just now started sending us samples, believe it or not, today of some of the drum tracks that he's working on. So I've got to hear 6 raw tracks with him on the drums. And so that's happening. There's so much stuff happening right now. I can't even tell you how much shit is happening. And all of us are so busy. That's what's crazy. And Roga is a machine. I don't think the dude even fucking sleeps. He's a Terminator. He's a death metal Terminator. I don't see how he's got children. He's got baby children, like 2 little young. How the hell do you work with all these children and a wife and make all this kick-ass death metal without sleeping? How the fuck do you not sleep? I'm always wondering how he does it. But he's got so much stuff going on. David's got stuff going on. I've got stuff going on. And it's like, to me, it's scary because some of the stuff's overlapping right now. Because I have a real life and I'm working 2 jobs right now. I'm trying to help my mom and all this stuff. And it's like, oh shit, I got to get this done. Because I'm working on, Nattravnen is something I'm doing with Johnny Pedersen. That's something that's kind of keeps getting pushed back and keeps getting pushed back. And only because I keep telling Johnny, we don't have a label, so I got to push this back. I'm working on the Grotesquerie. Troiocodon is about to come up and get worked on. There's so much stuff that's going on. But to answer your question, yes, 12 songs are written. I got to hear samples of 6 of them today. So Travis is working on putting the drums. Musically, it's written. How we're going to do it, I think we're splitting it. I'm getting 6 songs, David's getting 6 songs, and we start working on the lyrics. I just spoke to everyone yesterday in depth about, because everyone throws around ideas. So what are the lyrics going to be about? Well, I like the fact that how when we talked about it, it was going to be a 3, headed vocalist.
Yep.
3-headed vocals going together. Me, David, Carl, coming together and doing it. So I really got to thinking about things in 3s. And there's this myth, I'm sure you've heard it, everyone's kind of heard it, that death happens in 3s, like especially like celebrity deaths or, tragedy happens in 3s. And I really got interested in this whole concept of 3, the number 3, and how there's even in Greek and Roman, there's like the triumvirate. There's the 3 heads of state. There's 3-headed gods in different Slavic beliefs and stuff like this. And I really got into this whole concept of the whole 3 of everything. And I told David, I said, I really think we should just concentrate lyrically on this whole idea of things in 3s, like death in 3s. And he loved it. And I said, I just threw out a song title I had. I said, The Triumvirate of Death. And he's like, well, there's our album title. And I was like, really? I was like, that's just the song title I have. And he's like, that's perfect. That's perfect. So everyone likes the concepts. And I think that's literally what we're working on now. We're working on the lyric aspect of it. The music's done and the drums are getting done, and how we do the file sharing thing, which I know blows people away. A lot of people ask me, how do you get in bands with you don't practice with everybody? I'm like, it's 2017, motherfucker. There's goddamn internet. It's like, it's the simplest thing in the world. I don't have to be in a fucking sweaty garage with a bunch of guys smelling their stinky nuts all night and beer and cigarette smoke, working on a music where you work on one song and get one song done in 3 months. No, these guys write. They're like how I like to do things. They're very gung-ho about creating music. They're write it, send. I've got guys like now. A-Cathartic is. I have Aaron. The first A-Cathartic album just came out a month and a half ago, and Aaron's already got a whole second album done. He sends me riffs constantly. Roga does the same thing. They send riffs even before the song's completed or structured, and they're like, and that's what I like about this group of guys that I'm working with. Everybody has that excitement, and it's really hard. I mean, especially for me, I'm 50. I'm 50 years old. I've been doing this for 35 years, yet I get giddy as a kid when I get Roga writing me, check out this new riff. Check out this part of the song. I'm still that kid again. I'm that kid back in the garage in 1983 going, this is fucking awesome, And that's kind of hard to get. But we do that. This group of guys working together get that. So the Troiocodon is coming along great. I mean, everybody's excited because we're listening to this and we're like, David's going, oh my God, I got parts that are going to go great here. And I'm like, oh, I hear good stuff here. And we can't wait to hear Carl, what he's going to do. And it's like, there's that excitement. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I'm 50, but I act like a 14-year-old when I get this stuff.
So, Kam, now you were talking a little bit there about A-Cathartic as well. This is like a funerally, doomy, dread metal-y band. So tell us a little more about that. And you said you guys just released an album like a month ago. So tell us what's going on with you guys. And tell us who's in it.
Yeah, it's A-Cathartic is me. It's Aaron Witzel of the band Cropsy Maniac and Travis Rubio, who Travis plays the drums. We had Chris Sabat of, oh God, it's going to kill me because I don't remember the name of his band. Human, from Canada, it's like on the tip of my tongue, I cannot remember. Anyways, Chris came in and was the bass player for a while, but it was kind of hard to work with Chris and the timing, everybody's timing. So Chris stepped down as the bass player, and Aaron just took over. But the three of us have been working on this band since 2000, I want to say 2015 probably, is this incarnation of the band. Mm-hmm. I've had the band going probably from back to 2010, probably, even before that, going far as shit. I mean, idea-wise, going back to the early 2000s, probably 2002, when I first heard bands like Funeral Doom from Finland, like Thurgoth and Sept. God, I just brain farted. Worm Phlegm and bands like that. And I was like, I really liked what I heard those bands doing. And this is about the time where the black metal thing was getting really big. Death metal was sort of like, everyone was talking about death metal was dead. I remember that. Mm-hmm. Like right around like the 97, between 97, 98, 99, in the early 2000s. I remember people saying death metal was gone. It was dead. Oh, black metal's the new thing. This is the new thing. And I was like, I wasn't really digging the way black metal was going. I like the old school black metal sounds, but I wasn't digging the whole way it was going. So I was like, I gotta find something different. And all of a sudden, I just gravitated towards this Funeral Doom, especially coming out of Finland. And I was like, wow, this stuff is just heavy and dark and evil without all this keyboardy shit. And some of it was, people still get, oh God, Funeral Doom's boring, man. It's droning, and I'm like, okay, yes, but it puts you in a different headspace. And I like stuff that puts me in a headspace. I listen to bands like Merzbow. That's noise. And people are like, how the fuck can you listen to that? It's a headspace that you go into. And so the idea for A-Cathartic was actually from back then. Mm-hmm. I wanted to do something. But because it's Funeral Doom, it's very hard. Believe it or not, it's hard to find musicians that know exactly what you want. Mm-hmm. When you talk about that stuff. You can say, I want to do Doom. And you get riffs and they sound like Black Sabbath. And you're like, no, that's not the Doom I want to do. And they're like, well, why not, man? That's like Trouble and Black Sabbath. I'm like, no, you're not getting it. And then I try to like talk to musicians and say, hey, have you ever heard this band? They're like, yeah, I've heard of it. And you get the riff back, and it's like, no, it's completely off base. And it was really hard, a long process to find the right guys. I went through a lot of member changes trying to find the right fit. And Aaron just came along to, actually, I got in touch with Aaron first through Cropsy Maniac and being friends through that circle and being a fan of Cropsy, and then asking him if he would like to do my solo stuff. Because I write stuff, but I don't have the greatest equipment. So I asked him, I said, would you mind learning this stuff? And he started learning some of my solo stuff, which came out on my solo EP. And during that time, I said, hey, have you ever thought about Doom? I just threw it out to him. I said, have you ever thought about Doom? And he's like, man, I love Doom. I'm like, what kind of Doom do you like? He's like, I love Finnish, Doom. I was like, oh, shit. I fucking found somebody that actually likes the stuff that I like. And it kind of came out that way. And it's like, it happened so fast. I mean, as soon as he knew what I wanted, he's like, oh, yeah, we can write that. He was sending me, and like I said, that Giddy Child, getting riffs, that was coming out. He was sending me stuff through Facebook as we were sitting on Facebook and saying, hey, I got a riff, check this out, and would send it to me. And check this out. And I was like, oh, this is fucking, you got it. You're right there. You're doing exactly what I want. And it came together so quickly. At first, we weren't even sure if we were going to use Travis, because Travis had gotten so busy with other stuff. But Travis was adamant. He was like, oh, no, I got to do this. And I was like, okay, man, if you're that gung-ho and you want to do this, that's awesome. And it kind of just came together quickly. But for me, it's been a long process because of how long I've been trying to get it off the ground, going through different musicians. And it was so refreshing to finally get guys that were just like really excited to do it and knew what I wanted to do. They got it without me having to explain to them. Or, I don't know if you know, but sometimes guys will say, hey, man, check this band out. Trying to get you to, I really like this, check this out. I didn't have to do that with them. They knew it. They already knew it. They were already fans of the music. So it was real easy to say, oh, fuck, man, this is exactly what I like. And they were like, oh, well, I like this, but check this out. Can we do a little bit of this? And I was like, man, that fits perfect. And also being horror fans, because the whole aspect and the whole lyrical content of that band is about ghost. And it's like, I really wanted to do something that was more supernatural lyrically. And it just came across that. And then the idea that we had, the major idea that I had, basically was, hey, I was watching a lot of ghost shows, and they were doing all this stuff where you see the ghost shows, and they would say, we have electronic voice phenomenon. Ghosts are talking. And I was like, okay, I don't really believe that shit, but some of the ghost stuff that they were playing was spooky. It's like, wow, that's really spooky. Why doesn't anybody sample that? And I was like, I'm going to fucking sample that. I'm going to be the first guy that puts electronic voice phenomenon in my songs. And that's what A-Cathartic did. I got a bunch of samples. There's a guy on YouTube that supposedly has a bunch of stuff that sits down with this ghost box, that's what they're called now, and can talk to the other side. And some of the stuff's cheesy, but some stuff's pretty spooky. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not going to say it's real. I don't know if it's real or not. I don't know if it's some guy in a microphone in this guy's toilet, talking in the toilet, making his voice all echoey and talking back. I don't know if it's that or not. But when it is spooky, when there's some really cool, spooky, atmospheric stuff, I sampled a bunch of that and I put that into our songs because I was like, that's just creepy. And I started finding out about frequencies and fear cages and all kinds of stuff that sound can actually make you have these paranormal feelings. So, believe it or not, we messed around with frequencies in A-Cathartic songs. And a couple songs, I'm not going to tell you which ones, but a couple of them have that tone where we got to go and hit that certain tone, that certain frequency. There was some stuff we couldn't do. We tried to do low frequency, but Dennis Israel, who was the producer on it, said, this is tearing up my speakers. We can't put these in there. I'm like, what? He's like, no, man, these low bass tones that you're trying to put, it's just going to drown out all the music. So I said, okay, let's do the high frequencies. Here's the thing. A couple of people that have listened to the A-Cathartic album that have dogs and said, man, my dog won't start howling when I play the album. I'm like, it's because there's sounds in there the dog can hear and you can't. So yeah, we messed around with frequencies, and I'm going to probably do more of that stuff, probably with the next album, even more so, because it really worked. I didn't know if it was going to work. I didn't really know if it was going to work. It was an experiment, and it was an experiment that actually worked. So we'll probably do more of that on the next album.
I'm going to play it for my dog after this interview now.
That's awesome. Yeah, if he starts howling or starts like freaking out, man, then you're going to know, oh, there it is. Look at him. My cat freaks out. My cat really freaks out at certain parts in it. And, like, gets real low to the ground and I'm looking at me. I'm like, what's wrong with you? So, I don't know.
Now, Kam, another band you mentioned, right, is the Grotesquerie, a band that's been around now for, like, 8 years. So tell us the inception behind this band and what's been going on throughout the years and what you guys are up to now.
Okay, well, again, I was with Roga, and we were doing Bonar. This is back probably in 2007. And I wanted to just do something. I said to Rogue, with Bonar, I just want to do something that's raw. I want to do lyrics that are just about slashers and cannibals and just everything that I want to do, and be really goofy about the lyrics. I don't want the lyrics to be serious. Well, Roga, after writing the first Bonar album, he's like, would you like to do another album? And I thought he was talking about Bonar, and I'm like, yeah, no problem. And he's like, well, can we do something more like your lyrics from Beyond? And I was like, okay, but I can't do that in Bonar. He's like, why? I said, because it has to be another band. It won't fit. I like concepts. I'm a very conceptualized person, and I always think of bands as a concept. I know there's a lot of bands out there that will just throw shit together, and it's all about death or about Satan or whatever, and just throw it together in a big salad bowl mix. I kind of like, because I'm maybe a movie fan, I like these little genres. So think of my bands as sort of like, I guess, movies, like a movie series or a TV series. So Bonar really wouldn't fit with those type of lyrics. And I told Rogue, I said, well, we got to do something different. But I have an idea. And he's like, well, what? I said, I have this story I've been writing for 10 years. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I've been trying to write a book, probably all the way back from 95. I started writing after I left Massacre, and I got out of the scene for a while, and I've been working on this book, and I really wanted it to be Lovecraftian. And Rogan's like, oh, that's what I want your lyrics to be. So I sent him snippets of the book, and he wrote back, he's like, this has to be the album. And I'm like, well, how are we going to do it? He's like, we have to make it a concept album. And I'm like, okay, that's actually a cool idea, because I don't think that many death metal bands, or any other than, I think Deceased might be the only death metal band that's ever done a concept album, other than like stuff that King Diamond did. I said, okay. I said, but this story is huge. I had notes. I didn't have a full story like written out like a novel, but I had enough notes in the past decade that I had 3 novels worth of stuff, and I knew where the story wanted to go. And I said, well, let's not start from the beginning, because I don't feel that's a good way to lead into it. And he's like, well, what do you want to do? I said, let's take the snippet from the middle, which is about, this guy and his son and him raising his son. It really was more than that. It just turned out to be. And Tales from the Coffinborn came from that. And Roga had music written, and he brought it to me, and I said, yeah, this is going to fit, because the story is very Lovecraftian, very Edgar Allan Poe feeling. And I said, it's going to really fit. And it kind of it was like perfect. It fitted perfect. It's like the 2 Lego pieces that you get in there. Oh, they fit right. Oh, good. I can now make a rocket ship. It's like the 2 Lego pieces that fit perfectly. And you're like, oh, great. That's exactly what I needed. And that's exactly how the Grotesquerie came about. Then when it came to the second album, Roga was like, we got to continue the story. And I was like, oh, shit. Well, I started the story from the middle. I was like, let me go ahead and then continue the story from where I have it. And we did the second album, which is a completely different kind of story. It's connected, but it's loosely based on it, and it goes into a different aspect and a different character and stuff like that. Then we got to the third album. And he's like, well, we got to finish the trilogy. I'm like, well, now I ended the story. We got to go back to the beginning. So I said, okay, I'll tell you what. Let's make the third album a sequel to the first album and a prequel to the second album. He's like, that's kind of a cool idea. I said, okay, let's do that. So the third album came out, which was Curse of the Skinless Bride, takes place after the first album, chronologically, in time, and predates the second album, the events that happened in the second album. So it's a trilogy, it's just mixed up. Now we're working on the fourth album. Everybody's like, are you going to continue the trilogy? I'm like, then it's not a trilogy. That doesn't work. It's a trilogy. It's done. And then everyone's like, what are you going to do next? Are you going to do a new trilogy? You're going to start. I'm like, that was very exhausting. Okay, I really was, because I didn't know where it was going. I said, I have new stories, but I don't want to continue it. And everyone's like, oh, but you got to do something. I'm like, okay, what about a loose connection? Like, you know, it happens in the same universe. Let's just say that. So that's what we're working on now. Is the fourth album. The fourth album is actually it's something I've always wanted to do. Like I said, I'm a very genre-oriented person. I think of concepts, and I've always wanted to write a werewolf album. That's just based on the whole werewolf thing. I'm a big werewolf fan. I love werewolf movies, and so I got to do that. And this is going back to 2000. At the end of 2015, we've had this idea going back. And I know a lot of people may not know this, but the artist Mark Riddick is the guy that created our logo. And I went to Mark after the trilogy was done. And I said, Mark, we're going to work on a new Grotesquerie. I said, but I want to change the logo, but I don't want it to be completely different. I want people to be able to look at the logo and go, oh, yeah, that's the Grotesquerie. But I want the logo to look different. And I just threw these ideas at him. He's like, well, what's the concept of the... I said, I'm going to do werewolves. He's like, I got an idea. And he sent the first sketches back that night. He was so excited. He sent the first sketches back of the new logo. And I was like, oh, my God, that's perfect. And it's got wolves incorporated into it. And I was like, this is great. I said, but there's one thing I want you to change. And he's like, what's that? I said, on the first logo, the Q had the Necronomicon star. On the second logo, that's always been a constant change. Every album, that Q, the symbol inside the Q is always changed. The logos remain the same, but the symbol inside the Q is always changed. This time, I wanted that Q to really focus on everything. I said, werewolves use going back to American Werewolf in London. Of course, I'm a horror movie fan. I said, the werewolf thing is a pentacle. I said, we got to put a pentacle in there with a wolf. And it worked out the way he designed it, that the wolf's tail is the slash in the Q.
Ah, cool.
I said, oh, that is really cool, man. That's amazing. And so that's what we're working on now. It's the fourth album. It's called the Lupine Anathema. It's the Curse of the Werewolf sort of kind of storyline. But Roga's like, can you throw in something that ties in the first album? I'm like, yeah, I got an idea, man. I got a cool idea that's going to kind of surprise everybody, but I don't want to tell you. I want it to be a surprise. I want everyone to go, oh, wow, man, there's that connection. I didn't see that coming. So there's that. There's going to be a connection to the trilogy, I should say, but this is a storyline it's done. It's not going to be a trilogy. It's going to fill this album. This album's going to consist of this one concept, but it's going to be connected loosely to the first album and to the entire trilogy. I'll just put it to you that way. Music-wise, it's completely done. It's finished. I'm in the process. All the lyrics are written. I'm halfway through recording the vocals. So that's where we're at right now. But like I said, I got that going on. I got the A-Cathartic going on. I got the Nattravnen, which is with Johnny Pedersen. Is another band I got going on.
Let's talk about that one now.
Okay.
You didn't mention that one yet, Cam, so tell us all about that one.
Okay, how that came about was Roga actually got in touch with me. He said, I got a buddy, Johnny. Wait, I know who Johnny is. He's like, oh, you know whom? I'm like, yeah, man, Woombath and all those bands. I know who that is. He's like, well, he wants to. And this is another thing. It's all that funny shyness. It's like, we're all death metal, but the truth is, we're really fucking shy. We're fucking afraid to talk to each other. Well, Johnny got in touch with Roga and said, hey, could you get maybe Kam Lee to do something with me? So Roga gets in touch with me and goes, Johnny wants to do something with you. I'm like, hey, no problem. Okay. So I got in touch with Johnny, and we just started talking, and he's like, would you want to do something with me? I said, sure. Send me what you got. And I'm thinking he's going to send me one or two songs. He sends me this whole entire album of songs. It's like 9 songs. I'm like, these are really good. I said, let me demo something for you really quick. And I literally demoed something the next day for him, which is he put it up. It was just supposed to be just for him. And he like puts it up on YouTube. I'm like, Johnny, I didn't really put myself into the vocals. I just had it. But I love when I can listen to a song. A guitar player brings me a riff and a concept and a feeling. I love it when I can get that song that day and already from the first listen through, I've got the ideas. They're starting to fall into place. I'm like, okay, I know the feeling of this. I know what's going to happen. I know what I want. How I want this to go. I'm a person that also, like, I guess because I'm so old school, I like to have that hook and sort of like a chorus hook or that groove, and I like to follow the guitar. I write a lot of my lyrics to the guitar and how the guitar is going. So if the guitar has a certain note or a certain sequence of notes, I like to write that where I'm smooth with that rather than fighting against it. A lot of death metal bands, singers, fight against the rhythm, and that kind of gets a little annoying. I can understand it's like a style, but I'm like that. I like the style where everything grooves together, kind of like that little Lego piece that fits. I like that. So that literally happened was he sent me 9 songs, and I was like, this is great. And it had a completely different feeling than any of the other stuff I've ever worked on with Roga or any of the past musicians. It was very Swedish, I guess is a way to say it. I don't know how it had this very Swedish death metal feel to it and I'm a huge fan of Swedish death metal. I mean, going back to Grave and Entombed back in the day, it's just like I really adhered to the Swedish sound of death metal. And it had that, but it also had this new freshness to it. And also sort of, there's keyboards in it, but not done in a cheesy way. It's more of an atmosphere way, kind of like I said, I'm a horror movie fan, so I felt this sort of atmosphere, the way he would incorporate the keyboards in it. And I'm like, I've never really worked in a band that had these many layers. I said, this is going to be really cool. And quickly, the concept rolled around, because at first he's like, what do you want to call it? I'm like, I love Swedish stuff, so let's call it something Swedish. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, I've been in bands that are all English words. Let's call it something in your language. And we threw around some ideas, and he told me about this thing, his grandmother, about a legend his grandmother used to talk to him about this crow, this being that was called a crow, like a crow-headed creature. And I said, well, what is it? It's like the Nattravnen, which means night raven. And I started looking it up on the internet. I'm like sitting there, okay, he's talking to me, and I'm Googling it on the other window. I'm like, okay, I'm talking to him on Facebook, but I'm pulling up this window and Googling Nattravnen. And all these really cool pictures come up. And you know how Google, they'll show you these pictures. So I click over to the pictures because I'm a very visual person. And I start seeing all these really awesome pictures of like this very beautiful woman, body-wise, feminine, very nice built, and this raven head. And I'm like, that is creepy. That's just creepy, man. That's just like, she's really sexy body, but she's got this head of a raven. And I started looking at this other stuff, and you start getting like these old wood cuttings from Sweden and stuff. And I'm looking up all this stuff about the Nattravnen. And then I look up about how it's like, it steals souls, and like some of it's creepier, like it's almost like a fairy tale, like almost like an evil tooth fairy, how like people would use it to scare kids, like it would come, and if you didn't go to bed at night, the Nattravnen would come and steal you and take you away. And I'm like, why has no one ever done this before? Why has no one ever written about this before? This is great. So I came back to him with this whole concept. I was like, we need to write about this. We need to make this into something. I said, this is really cool. He loved the idea. So he's also an artist too, and he started throwing around some ideas. We're bouncing ideas off of each other. I said, would you mind if I kind of take this a little further and make it sort of like a modern fairy tale or a lost fairy tale that no one's ever heard of before? And he's like, well, what do you got? I said, okay, here's a concept real quick. The Nattravnen. It's a legendary creature, but also it's a raven, so it also stands for death. It's like the embodiment of death. I said, what if death fell in love? What if death was a female and she fell in love, but she was scorned? she would be really pissed. If you pissed off Death, imagine what that would be like. So then I said, let's make the world takes place in a fairy tale world, and the world is called Nevermore. Again, I'm a big Edgar Allan Poe fan, so Nevermore comes from the story, The Raven. And I'm like, what if the land is called Nevermore, and this is actually where the Raven comes from? What it is Death, Nattravnen, is Death. She gets scorned. Her lover is the prince of that land. He lies to her. He fools her. He tricks her. He says, I love you and stuff. Basically, the whole idea is he tricks her, so he steals her cloak. Her cloak is how she becomes a Raven. He steals this cloak, which then he now is invisible to her. She can't find him. He breaks her heart because he has another lover. So out of spite, she goes and kills his lover, but makes it look like a suicide. And like Johnny's like sitting there listening to me and goes, are you just coming up with this out of your head, or you have this? I'm literally coming up with this out of my head, but I have notes written down. He's like, this is genius. I'm like, thank you. I just want to do this. It just feels like it's something that needs to be done. And that's literally how this band came about and the concept came about. And I think it's going to really be really cool when it gets done and people see it. It's different for me to be doing something like this. I don't want to use the word gothic because I know as soon as you say that, people think of Paradise Lost or My Dying Bride or stuff like that. But it's very gothic in the content. It's like a gothic horror tale mixed with a fairy tale. And I think lyrically it is. Musically, it's really the most in-depth stuff I've ever done, you know. And it's really great what he's done musically. And I'm excited.
And you know, Kam, you know, you saying the story about, you know, what you were just talking about there. A lot of bands now, too, when they have releases, they release, like, these little booklets or these, like, little, like, comic books that follow along with that. That sounds like the perfect freaking album to do something like that with.
Yeah, I know. There's so much that we want to do, and we got to get the music done first, and then I'm sure we'll start talking about, like, all the other cool concepts to do. But, yeah, that's an idea I've always wanted to do. And I know so many comic book artists that would be perfect for it, too.
Yeah, it would be cool. Okay, so now as far as bands go, is there anything else that we missed that you are working on or you can tell us about?
Well, this is what, you know, a lot of people know that I got back together with Rick Ross, and we started working on some stuff. Went through a lot of legal stuff. I won't even get into that, but it eventually became Gods of Death. Gods of Death was working for a while, and we recorded a single, which was 2 songs. I don't know when those songs are coming out. Don't ask me. I have no idea. But the 2 songs were done. One was called Dead Man's Scream. The other one was Return to the Caves of Abomination, which that one lyrically and feeling-wise is a very From Beyond massacre. It literally sounds like it should have been on that album. So that was exciting. But that's really, like, it's kind of on the back burner. I'm not sure what's going to transpire with that band, but it was done. It has been done. I have recorded 2 songs that, you know, Rick wrote. So that's the only thing that's on the back burner as far as that band goes. The other stuff I got, like I said, the A-Cathartic, the Grotesquerie. There's a Bone Gnawer. Yes. New Bone Gnawer is also going to be, it hasn't been worked on yet. I think Roga's written the music for it. And he gave the music to the 2 guys that he had just do his Rib Spreader album, the last Rib Spreader album. So that's going to be happening. Of course, I've got to get all this other stuff done and out of the way first. But that's, you know, pretty much what's going on right now. And I have my solo thing. I still want to do my solo thing, and I'm going to push that back till next year because I have this idea I'm going to do a label. I want to do my own label. And I have my solo demos coming out, kind of like on a double release with another label, which is Sleepless Beast Records. We're going to do, you know, like my label, which is Death Vocal Records, and Sleepless Beast Records. We're going to join together to release my demos on a compilation. And this is just stuff that I never really knew what I was going to do with it. It's stuff that I've written everything for. I did the 7-inch that came out on Iron Pegasus. Those songs aren't on this. These are songs that were all just demo songs. A lot of them were just, you know, songs that I wrote for my wife. There's one song I wrote for my wife as kind of as a joke, and it got such good responses. I put it up on SoundCloud, and people were like, "This is really good." I'm like, "Really?" Because it was just a joke for my wife. Because my wife is an old school death metal chick from the '90s, but she also loves '80s goth music, like stuff like Sister Mercy and stuff like that. So I wrote a song that was kind of like combining death metal and gothic music from the '80s, and I called it that 1984 Itch. And literally, that's all I called it. And people were like, "That's a really cool song." I'm like, "Okay, well, I'll throw it on there just for a joke." So that stuff's on there. There's all the stuff that's on there that's very... I'm a huge Misfits, Danzig, Sam Hain fan back in the day. I love that stuff. So when I did my own solo stuff, a lot of people were like, "Why isn't it all death metal?" I'm like, "Because I've done death metal for the past 35 years. Why do I have to keep doing death metal?" Okay, so I said my solo stuff, I wanted to be something that is from me, myself. What am I a fan of? And as a kid, as a teenager, you know, I was a fan of Misfits, and I was a fan of Misfits all through Danzig stuff, and even the Michael Graves stuff. I even like some of that stuff. Of course, now with Jerry Only, I'm sorry, dude, I cannot stand it. Sorry, I can't. I try to listen to it. I'm like, God, Jerry, you suck as a vocalist. Get somebody else. But I'm not one of the. I'm never one of those guys that's, if a band is great when it comes out, it's great to be a fan of that band. But if the band sucks now, why continue to be a fan? Like this is me personally. I'm not kind of rip on anybody else. I'm not a fan of Slayer anymore. I stopped being a fan of Slayer. Okay, it's just my personal take. There's people out there like, "Slayer! I'm fucking a Slayer fan from 1985, and I'm Slayer fan till I die." Okay, the band sucks now, dude. I think it does. Okay, maybe. Okay, before Hanneman died, I stopped liking Slayer after Lombardo left. But I mean, definitely after Jeff died, I was like, it's not Slayer anymore, man. It's Kerry King and Tom Araya.
True.
You know, with I don't know. But I'm just saying, I don't feel that you have to be a fan of a band for life if the band starts to suck.
Right.
It's like, if the band starts to suck, I understand you want to, like, keep, oh man, I've been a fan for so long, I really want to like them. But if the new album sucks, you don't have to buy it. Don't feel that you have to, oh man, I've got all fucking 15 last albums that they did. Okay, well, if the new album sucks, don't buy it. You know, I'm not one of those guys that feel like I have to stay with something if I don't like it. Right. Misfits, I love. Old stuff, I love. Danzig, I love the old stuff. I don't know what Glenn's doing now. I really don't. I tried to go, okay, it's Glenn, I'll give him another chance. And he keeps disappointing me. I was like, God damn it, Glenn, stop disappointing me. And then, but there's guys that still do stuff that I like. I'll always be a Tom G. Warrior fan. Even some of the best, except for that one thing he did was really horrible. I can't remember what it was called. He did just a demo of it. It was really, really bad. But even when he did Apollyon Sun, I liked some of that stuff. Yeah, I don't like Cold Lake. I don't even own it. But there's still cool riffs on it. I guess, riff-wise. I like him for the stuff he does, and I really like the Triptychon stuff that he's doing now. So some guys I'll stick with. I'll stick with them and give them another chance. Other bands that just because I was a fan, 35 years ago, if they suck now, I don't like them. But I respect the old stuff. So I adhere to that old stuff, and that's what I did with the Kam Lee stuff, is I took influences from all the stuff I liked, which was stuff from Hellhammer to Misfits to even Carnivore, that kind of stuff, and I try to put that together. And I'm a big, big fan of D-beat hardcore punk like Discharge and that whole crust punk stuff, and I love the D-beat. To me, it's the perfect drum beat for slamming somebody against the wall and smashing their head. I don't know. There's just something about a D-beat drum beat with a good riff that just feels right. It's like what I was talking about earlier about being in the pocket, having that music that's in the pocket. A lot of guys like Blast, and I can appreciate Blast, and I can appreciate guys that like Blast. But some bands showboat too much, and I really feel they lose, not just with the Blast. There's guys that showboat the guitar too much, and I feel it's great to be, hey, you're showing off. I get it. But don't show off for fucking 5 minutes. It's like, you're losing me, man. You're losing me. I'm not feeling anything. All it's been is
Right.
for 5 minutes long. I don't know what's going on anymore. It's all like, I was like, okay, cool.
You're lost.
It's been 5 minutes too long. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the fuck you're saying. You sound like an elephant farting in a tunnel. I don't know what's going on. I mean, I appreciate that bands like that, and I'm not ripping on anybody like that, but variety is what I like. So what I did with my stuff is I went back. I said, I'm not going to write anything that sounds like it's 2017 or 2015 when I started writing it. I said, I'm going to write stuff that sounds like it's 1985. And that's what I did.
All right. So, Cam, I think we covered just about everything we could possibly cover. So if people want to, know more about what's going on with you, I mean, is the best spot to go to probably your Facebook page to see what, you're doing next?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I'm not a guy that creates websites. People are like, why don't you got a website yet? I'm like, because it costs too fucking much money, man. I want to eat a sandwich tomorrow.
Right.
No, I don't do the website thing. Facebook is the easiest. I'm very approachable. I mean, people get scared. Oh, it's Kam Lee. I don't know what to fucking say to him. Or, I heard he was a dick. He's a fucking asshole. I ain't talking to him. It's not like that. I'm very easily approachable. It's just, I don't friend everybody. I've got people in friend limbo. I don't know you. I have people. That's one thing about Facebook I don't like. Don't just ask me to be my friend. If you're gonna do that, I look at Facebook like my house. Knock on my door. Send me a message. Tell me why you want to be my friend. Just don't friend me. It's like a dick coming up to the door. Hey, man, let's be friends, man.
Exactly. But everything is public anyway, so even if they're not your friend, they could go check you out to see what project you're doing, what's being released, and all that kind of stuff. And, all right, there's plenty of bands we talked about that you guys could go check out, all featuring our guest today, Kam Lee. And Kam, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to us today, and all the best to you with all you have going on.
Okay, thank you.